All right. So we are recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to what are we calling this? Read along.
Read along.
Yep, that works for me. Read along. And it's our first one, and we're very excited to read each other's first chapters and ask some hard hitting investigative journalism questions. Not really. Um, we might be a little giggly. Most of us have been drinking already because it's quarantine time. Quarantine and read is what I'm calling it. Quarantine and drink, really. So we're going to introduce ourselves. Lexi, tell the people all about you.
Hi, I write as Alexis D. Craig, a government name, and I write paranormal romance. I work for the government, and I'm exceptionally boring. I'm a dog mom, wife of a couple decades now, and very boring. And a little drunk.
All right, Jessica's next.
Hi, I am Jessica Cage. I am an author from Chicago, Illinois. I write stories of fantasy featuring characters in color. And I will be reading from A Killing Moon by Alexis D. Craig.
All right, Nikki is next.
Hi, I'm Nikki Clark. I'm also from Chicago, but I live in Florida in Jacksonville. That's not as woo. I'm from Jacksonville. Sorry. I am a poet and writer, obviously, and I write paranormal sci-fi. I love sexy aliens. That's my thing right now. Just working in some magic and some shifters someday, but I'm reading The Shifter Bachelor by, is it Shai or Shai?
Shai
August.
All right, and let's see. Oh man, y'all keep switching. Shai, you go next. Y'all keep switching places up here. I see what you're doing. Confusing me.
It goes by who's talked the most or the latest.
Oh, for real? Oh, okay. Never mind.
You act like we're getting up and hopping to each other's house teleporting. We're not doing it on purpose, I swear. Don't you? All right, my name is Shai August. I'm going to stop saying I write paranormal romance. I write high fantasy wrapped in a small paranormal romance. That's what I do. And I live in New Orleans, and I am a terrible person. So there you go.
That's not true. She's a great person.
No,
who are you reading?
You didn't hear my road rage on the way back here, did you? Okay.
And who are you reading tonight, Shai?
I am reading Stella Williams, Ferocious, The Secret, Ceres.
All right. And Stella, I think you're the last one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, I am Stella Williams. I am a paranormal romance author, right life blogger, and paranormal romance, sci-fi, and fantasy reviewer on YouTube. And today I will be reading Queens of Beasts, The Life, Love, and Death of Adara Mitchell by Miss Phoenix Williams.
All right. And then there's me, Phoenix. What do I do? Well, I'm from Chicagoland. I don't say Chicago because, people get mad when you say you're from Chicago and you live in the suburbs, okay? So look at Jessica's face. She's like, yes, get it right. Okay, so I'm from Chicagoland, and I write whatever the hell I feel like. Sometimes it's paranormal, sometimes it's romance, sometimes it's erotica. But today, I'm super excited because I'm reading Siren's Call by Jessica Cage. And let me tell y'all, I done spent the whole day just over here in this book. And I really should have been writing Queens of Beasts 5, but, it's all up here. I'm going to get to it. All right. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with Jessica's book. The way this is going to work is that we're all going to read a chapter or half a chapter, depending on how long it is, of each person's book. We're going to ask that particular author 5 questions. They're going to answer them truthfully and with an open heart. And then we're going to move on. Shai, I can practically hear you, even though you're muted. And we're going to answer them with an open heart and an open mind. And we're going to try to entertain.
Man, ain't nobody got time for this touchy-feely shit. Come on now.
Damn it, Shai. I'm trying to be a better person for 2020, okay?
Gave that up January 3rd.
I haven't given up yet. It's Lent. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start. If you've never seen me on live before reading, then I will warn you, I provide my own commentary about what I'm reading, even if it's my own books. All right, so here we go. Chapter 1. When it happened, I couldn't have been more terrified or more grateful. Well, isn't that a conundrum? All right. I was walking home from my train. My internship had run late and it was pitch black outside. The night was cold. I checked my phone for the temperature. Only 10 degrees. However, it felt more like 10 below. This must have been during that polar vortex last year. Winter was finally settling in, and I had not chosen the right coat at all. I still had my bear, a tan fur and leather reversible coat that my aunt had given me, packed up far in the back of my closet, because that's going to keep you warm in the back of your closet. But that's okay. We all live and learn. I made a mental note to dig it out as soon as I got home. I was about a block away from my house when the car flew past me. It was a small silver sedan. I couldn't tell what make or model it was because it looked as if each piece had been pulled from a different car, a junkyard makeover. Sloppy jalopy. I made the mistake of looking up. There were 5 men packed in the car, and they all looked shady, so I looked straight ahead. I could see the steps that led up to the front of my apartment. I was so close to safety that I quickened my pace. 2 seconds later, I realized my suspicions were correct. The car slowed just enough to make a U-turn at the end of the block. It crept its way back towards me, and my heart began to race. I scanned the streets for any signs of life. Girl, it is cold. Ain't nobody out there. It was only 9:30, but with a drop in the temperature, there weren't too many people eager to hang around outside. See, I told you. There was no one. I fumbled for my phone. I could call the police. If anything was to happen, at least someone would know, and help would be on the way. My hands trembled as I tried to pull the phone from my pocket and watch as the car neared at the same time. I dropped my phone, girl. And as I watched it fall, I knew that there was no time to recover it. Before it hit the ground, I heard the car doors opening, the cat calls, and the footsteps. I froze. Hey, mama, just stay right there, baby. I'm coming for you, girl. You better run. Don't stay. The driver called to me as he slammed his door. His passengers, 4 of them, flocked behind him on either side, whistling and making noises that made my skin crawl. She must live in a bad neighborhood, because in my neighborhood, they would have ran around and they would have called the police over here harassing young ladies. All right, I tried to move, tried to force my legs to run, but they surrounded me before I could fully process what was happening. I clutched my purse, but I knew that was not what they were after. This was not a mugging in the making. It was something so much more, so much worse. Please, leave me alone. I do my own acting too, y'all. Okay. I spoke. My voice was low and trembling with fear, but I knew they heard me. I could tell by the murmurs and low laughter that came from them. My plea to be left alone was nothing more than a tease to them. Leave you alone? Weren't you out here waiting for me, baby? I saw you. You want me, don't you, baby? He was in my face now. He was taller than I was. I stared straight ahead, and I could see his lips, full and pink with red slits. Possibly from the chill in the air. Possibly from a disease. I'll go with that second answer. His teeth were yellow and crooked, and his breath was a mixture of onions and liquor. Something hard. It burned my nostrils. I just want to go home, I said, though I knew it wouldn't make any difference. He would not be letting me leave, not before he did whatever it was he planned to do. Oh, you will, just as soon as I'm done with you. Mm-mm. He confirmed my thoughts as he flicked the hood off my head. Damn, baby, you are gorgeous. He looked at his pals for confirmation as he grabbed a handful of my hair that had spilled out of my hood and down my shoulders. Isn't she beautiful, fellas? He wrapped his hand in my hair and yanked it, turning me around to his friends. They all looked the same, tall, lanky, and dirty. They were bottom feeders. The people of the night, as my Aunt Tia referred to them. They lurked the streets, waiting for someone to harass while enjoying their addiction of choice, drugs or drinking. This crowd looked as though they enjoyed both. The glazed over look in the eyes of an alcoholic and the fidgety movements of a crackhead. They were coming close to me, slowly, and I froze. Panic began to choke me. Please don't, I managed a broken whisper. I knew it was useless to beg for my life, but I had to try. Shh. He leaned into me, his rancid breath creeping across my skin and making my stomach seize. You are going to enjoy this, baby. He reached his hand across me and unzipped my jacket. He's a little bored. The cold air assaulted me. I tried to focus on the numbing effect it had, and not his hand that was now inside my shirt. He rubbed the outside of my bra and kissed my cheek. Baby, you feel good. He looked at his friends who hovered, waiting for direction. I think I want this one for myself, boys. But they be sharing? I saw a disappointed look on their faces, heard the groans of exasperation, and then felt the pain. It was a sharp prick at the side of my neck. I looked down to see what it was and watched in horror as his hands pulled away from me. A needle. He had just shot me with something, some drug. Don't worry, baby, I got you, I heard him whisper as the world around me faded to black. Dun, dun, dun. Oh my gosh, that's so good. All right, Jessica, I got questions. All right.
My side hurts from trying not to laugh at you right now. So.
What would I do? I would just read. This is how I read to myself. I have some questions. All right. What made you start the book on such a tension-filled, ominous scene? Like, I was like, oh shit, girl, you better run. Why are you standing there? Where are your neighbors? Okay. Don't you got neighborhood watch? What's happening?
I don't know. That's the way the book started in my brain. So I had dreams about this mermaid, and then she would shift and she would just be walking down this dark street. And that was like the inspiration behind the book, was a dream. So I wanted to keep hold of that initial inspiration from it. And this book was a lot darker than some of the other stuff I've written.
I like it.
It feels like it just kind of pulls you right into like, okay, she already had problems from page one. So,
which leads me to my next question. So you like to blow people up in the first chapter. Okay, that's the way to my heart. So me and you, we best friends now, right? That's what you do.
I'm sorry, did I get replaced? What the hell?
I'm sorry. Okay. Come back to me. Okay, question 3. Siren's Call, out of your entire catalog, where would you rate it amongst your other books?
It's a tie for number 1 right now. And that's going off of the readers. For me, it's probably number 1 just because I love Serenata so much. And because I evolved as an author through the process of writing that book. My process of writing, I put so much time into researching the mythology behind sirens, and because all of my books intertwine, so it's like my own little universe. So I had to put a lot of work into making sure the timeline fit, and it just pushed me further as an author. This was the book that brought me most of my readership back in 2015 when they first came out. It hit me on like the international awards and all that. So this book is like my biggest baby ever. I love it so very much. But right now, as far as sales and readership, it's neck and neck with Jen, which is this book here. So I feel like I'm watching a race when I'm like looking at the like, is he gonna overtake her? Yes, no, but she's still holding strong, so yay.
All right, now if you could hop into any scene in this book, which would it be?
In this first book, there are so many scenes. I'm not sure if it's in this first book, but I'm gonna say this is the scene I want to be in. Oh yeah, it is in this book. Okay, so in the series, there's what they call the mate's tree. It's a doorway. It's in New Orleans. These trees grow, and the sirens use them to communicate. So they mate for life. But if their mate is away and the siren needs to, she needs to get her thing on in order to keep her energy up, she used the mate's doorway, which it's through this old tree, and she could connect with her better half. There's a scene where Serenata stumbles into one of these doorways, and things get real. And I know it may be a little voyeuristic of me, but I would just like walk on through that doorway with her and be like, "Oh snap!" I mean, we could use those doorways right now. We on quarantine. I could. Hey, babe, how you doing? I'm knocking on your door right now, but that's the, and just the tension that it brought up a lot for her and the other characters. That's when the love triangle really got a little tough in this book, because she didn't know what that doorway was, but I ain't gonna give away too much.
Now, what was the inspiration behind writing it in a first and second person kind of hybrid?
I wanted to give it so there are points where I felt like it really had to be from her perspective. But then there are other points where I just, as the narrator, I feel like you can get, I don't know, I do that a lot. It flowed a little bit better to me. Some of my readers are like, this tripped me up, but now they love it and they're used to it. And it's like, girl, I got you. You're gonna be okay. But I feel like there are certain scenes that can't be properly told from her perspective. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
there are things where you kind of have to step outside the character's head to give the readers like a full understanding of the world building and all that. So I tried to blend it together in a way that wasn't too jarring. And I think over the years, like I've gone back to that book and kind of tweaked it and made sure it flowed a little bit better. But over the years, I've been able to master that a little bit more. So that's something that I'm always trying to like research on how to do this without it pulling people out of the storyline.
Well, I absolutely loved the book. As I told you, I was supposed to read for 30 minutes, and next thing I know, I'm like, oops. So I love the book. Thank you so much for sharing. And then I'm going to mute myself because I believe on our wheel of reading, you are next. Yes. Okay. All right. Let me go ahead and mute myself.
Okay. So I'm reading A Killing Moon from Alexis D. and I'm going to start at the back of the prologue. So the last section of the prologue, just so the readers know where I'm at. They're not, lost. And it starts with Brendan. Okay. Let me get a sip for courage. Okay. It's done. The silence that met him on the other end of the phone line had him pulling the slim prepaid phone away from his face to check the connection. There were complications. In the background was some sort of melee, screams of pain, numerous voices shouting, car doors slamming. It was impossible to discern the circumstances, but complications were not what he paid for. I see. Taking a deep breath, he pinched his nose and looked out the window as several figures in gray suits poured out of the guardhouse into a line of idling Range Rovers. Your contract is terminated. I'll be in touch to settle up the balance owed to you. He closed the phone, hanging up before the other man had a chance to respond. If he crushed the phone and left any bits of electronic detritus in his trash, that was no one's business. Just as well, considering the wrath flowing through him had the air tasting like copper pennies and smelling like ozone as he fought his body's desire to shift. There would be time for that soon enough. I have to go out, he informed his aunt as she relaxed in front of the fireplace with her late night book and cup of tea. I won't be long. Be safe, my dear. She didn't even look up from her reading. Into the darkness he wandered, unnoticed, unhindered, naked as his black fur melted into the night. He had some things to attend to before the guards returned, and it was just as well as they were otherwise occupied. In his head, he could hear her say, "That's what you get for sending a jackal to do a wolf's job," a mistake that would be corrected directly. Chapter 1, Finn. Funny story, Your Highness. My name is Coretta Westgate, and those men were here to kill you on behalf of your brother. Those were certainly words, but damn if he could figure out what they meant. She may have well have been speaking Greek. Are you saying my brother? He had to stand, and when he did, his knees immediately betrayed him by going all squishy, and that was not okay. It's all right. I gotcha. Cora's right there, though. This woman, this goddess, this super spy. She held him up with an arm around his waist like it was whatever, like she's not mostly naked and living in her room, and he'd recently gone down on her. Your retinue? The words started making sense again all at once, but not in time to catch her whole question. I'm sorry, what? Your people, your personal guards, where are they? We need them here, now. Suddenly she's handing out orders like she's a seasoned field commander. Are they close? As much as he didn't want to, he admitted the truth right away. I kind of left without them. He just wanted one night. Was that so wrong? Her dark eyes shimmered with gold for a moment as she squinted up at him, disbelief clear across her face, right down to the fairly twitchy left eye. Okay, she breathed out deeply, rubbing her fingers against the bridge of her nose. Here's what we're gonna do. I gotta make some calls, so I need you. She pushed him to the couch and shoved her half-empty bottle of water into his hands. Right here. Drink. He wasn't proud of how his hands shook opening the bottle, but apparently she liked what she saw because she turned to open the desk and scribbled something on a piece of paper. You're gonna call your retinue, get them here now, and tell them there was an attempt on your life at your girlfriend's house, but leave off the part about the who. She pressed the paper into his hands before stalking over to a table in the entry foyer and pulling open a drawer. Cell phone in hand, she turned to head up the stairs. I'll be right back. Don't answer the door for anyone. Girlfriend? What? Hearing the sureness in her voice, as well as the confidence of her movements, even in as few as clothes, was jarring. And this was a lot to take in. Like, a lot. Wait, what? Where are you going? If she noticed how hyped up he was, she didn't mention it as she paused on the steps. This situation is going to get weirder before it gets better. And that's going to require actual clothes. I'll be right back. And so maybe he took one last long look at her beautiful, mostly naked form as he dug in his pocket for the phone. It's between him and the gods, and they were not speaking at the moment. And so there he sat, alone in her living room that still smelled like sex and gunfire and holy fuck shit. Her words played over and over in his head like some kind of weird warped loop. Why would Brendan want to kill him? How does she know all this? What's the play here? Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Is that good? Okay. I'm so happy about this book. I'm reading all of it. Okay, I got questions. Where's Lex?
Oh yeah, I'm here. This is awesome. I love it.
Okay.
I love the way you read it. It's great. I'm so excited.
I love it. I'm like gonna be eating up the rest of this, like all of it. It's so good. I love your writing. So I do have questions. I came prepared. We're not gonna mention who wasn't prepared when this started.
Oh, see, that was unnecessary.
Okay, my first question.
Stella, how dare you not be prepared for this? Okay, we planned this. Okay, shame on you.
Okay. So my questions. The book is set in Boston, which I feel the grittiness of it, the pacing that you have for it is like perfect. What made you decide to set the storyline in Boston?
It's really funny. I was in Boston in the spring of last year, and it was I wasn't there for very long. I was only there for a couple of days, and it was just such an interesting town. And it was on the list of places I'd wanted to go. My godparents live on the other side of Massachusetts, so I never actually got out to the eastern part, and it was just really it was just an interesting town. And you see it on TV and you see it in movies, and seeing it up close was pretty great. And yeah, it just kind of grew on me right when I was there.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, second question. Cora. I love her. She is me. I am her. We are the same. What was your inspiration behind Cora? Like, how did you build her character?
Cora is actually I didn't realize it at the time. I based a lot of Cora on Michael Weston from Burn Notice. I don't know if you've ever seen that. And the very much the retired spy, the
I don't think we can hear you, Lexi. Can y'all hear Lexi? Because I couldn't hear her.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you muted out for a minute. I think it was just the bandwidth.
Okay. Well, Michael Weston from Burn Notice, very much the gunplay, former spy aspect, and then Nakia from Black Panther is also, the competent girlfriend and the goofy boyfriend, aspects of that. The I'm affectionate, but I really kind of don't want to be affectionate kind of the push and pull of that together.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. So how did you decide on the tone and the pacing? Because I know the way I'm reading it may not have been the way you read it in your head, but I felt like it was really kind of fast paced. I can't think of TV shows off the top of my head because my brain don't work that way. But it felt like I was like in the middle, like dropped into the middle of this grand mystery, and I'm reading it like that. Is that how you intended for it to be read?
Yes. I'm very visual. I have a very visual approach, and so basically, I view it kind of like court transcription. I'm watching the story and I'm just typing as what I'm seeing, kind of approach to it. And so yeah, that's I approach the pacing with the idea of I'm trying to run it as fast in real time as I possibly can for the reader without going too fast to miss pieces, if that makes sense.
Yes. Okay. So the dynamic between Brendan and Finn, I'm not that far in, but they seem to have some issues as brothers. What can you tell us about that?
Their issues as brothers are very long-standing and ugly. Years of sectarian violence, kind of long-standing and ugly.
Oh,
yeah, there's never going to be a reconciliation there. There's really not, and that's just something that everybody's just going to have to live with, as far as they're concerned. They're just.
It is what it is. Okay.
Yeah, there's an anger there that's really deep rooted, and I don't want to say legitimate necessarily, but there are some legitimate elements to that anger on both sides. Okay. And so I just don't think they're ever going to be okay with one another. And that blows up badly.
Oh, that's unfortunate. But it makes for good reading. Nobody trying to read about friendly brothers. That's boring.
Hey,
So this is the first of the Winged Guardian series, correct? How much more can we expect from these characters? Because I'm already so in love, and I swear if it's like 2 books and out, I'm gonna be heartbroken, even though I've done it to people, but don't do that to me.
No, I won't be doing that to you. Book 2 will be out on the 10th of April. The plan for book 3 right now is have it out the 1st of September. The plan is 6, okay? Creek, God willing, and the creek don't rise, 6 books. That's all I'm going to do. Now, Shai will tell you that I have this alarming tendency to introduce side characters who apparently need their own stories. So there's that. But I'm trying to cut that down. I'm trying to cut that down. I don't want this to be like the never-ending story. I want this to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then on to the next series that's already in skeletal stages.
At first, it was only going to be 4 books, so you see it's already migrated to 6.
There you go.
And
I
there we
have
are.
no problem with that.
But that's what short stories are for. My beta readers tell me all the time, I need a story for that person. And I'm like, all right, what anthology can I put a short story in?
Yes.
You know what? I don't know that I've ever met a short story. I don't know what my problem is, but for whatever reason, my idea of a short story is 40,000 words. And I'm like, it's much more of a commitment than I mean to, and it always ends up that way.
Well, I am in love, and I will be finishing this book up this weekend. But that's all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay. I am reading this amazing book that I'm very mad at, actually, because number one, it's first in the series and it's by itself, and I'm very, very distressed. This book is by Nikki Clark, and it is called Biscuits. My computer is actively fighting me now. The Third Street Conjure Boys, and the book is called Jinx. And here we go. Chapter 1. Glitter. He levitated, Glee. I'm telling you, it was bananas. I release a deep sigh and drag my feet along the sidewalk as Blossom pulls me down 3rd Street. She gets so worked up over this kind of stuff. I kind of get it. It's neat. But not enough for all of this. On her 21st birthday, she tricked me into flying across the country to Vegas to see David Copperfield. And instead of lounging by the pool and working on my tan, I had to sit through 3 hours of watching a grown-ass man pretend to make a Cadillac disappear. And don't even get me started on that Blaine dude. It took me a whole year to convince her that he was a fraud. She finally realized the truth, but now she's stuck on these Conjure Boys. It's ridiculous. But she's my girl, so I humor her. Wow, Bloss, that's so cool. I returned dryly. But you know, it's the last week before my vacation is over. And I go back to work. I'm doing pitches for funding for my clinic next week, and I don't want to spend the whole day standing on some corner in the cold watching a dude do magic tricks. We're halfway up 2nd. Ahead, there's a pretty large crowd gathered around the 3rd Street corner. It's 20 minutes, Glitter. You should have... Of course, it jumps ahead. It's 20 minutes, Glitter. You should have been coming with me long before now anyway. They're the real deal, I'm telling you. I'm sure they are, Bloss. She doesn't see me roll my eyes. This has been an ongoing battle with her since we were kids. She thinks magic is real, and I don't argue because we all need something to believe in. In real life, I think she just likes hot dudes who pull coins from behind people's ears. We come on the crowd, and Blossom pulls me to the edge of the dense group to start pushing her way to the front. She's tiny, but that doesn't make the corners of her elbows any less effective in getting us through the throng of onlookers. More than a few people wince as she nudges them out of the way. Hey, you can't just jump out front. A man we've just ducked around shouts at our backs. We both turn. I'm about to apologize, but his scowl shifts into a wide grin as he looks down at us. Well now, sweetheart, I can put you on my shoulders if you want to get a good look. You're a little bitty thing. He's not talking to me. And I'm not surprised his annoyance disappears almost as soon as he drops his eyes on Blossom. She tends to have that effect on men. Blossom is my best friend, but I'm not being generous when I say she's stunning. It's almost unreal how beautiful she is. Nah, I'm good, she returns with a smile. I just figured we could squeeze in front since we're both short. We won't block your view, I promise. Shit, baby, you can block anything you want to if you're blocking with that body. I fight the urge to roll my eyes, but Blossom, shameless flirt that she is, turns her smile up a watt and plants her hands at the dip of her waist. The man's eyes follow her movement and flare as they roam over her curvy hips and perfectly perky boobs. No, we won't do that, she says coyly. We just want to get a little peek at the show. Is that cool? The man leers and flicks his tongue out to wet his lips. My internal groan is loud as I wait for his next line. Nah, baby, you good. Go ahead. Thanks. Blossom smiles again and turns back. When the guy can no longer see her face, she flicks her eyes up and sticks her finger between her lips, making an exaggerated gagging sound. You know we're going to have to dodge him when we leave, right? I murmur. You've initiated contact. He's been activated. Blossom chuckles and turns back to the front. Yeah, I know, but it's worth it. Look. I follow her finger to the small clearing in the middle of the crowd. I have to dip around a chunky dude with a big ass afro, but finally 3 men in the middle come into view. Various pitches of wow sound out around me as a bright red plume of smoke billows out of the open palm of the guy standing closest to the audience. My eyes widen for a moment. I can see why Blossom likes it so much. Dude is fine. I can't deny that. His full lips purse as he blows the massive cloud. I watch as it expands, and when it reaches the edge of the crowd, the unmistakable scent of roses wafts out. The crowd ahs, and I snort, looking down to find Blossom watching with a look of awe that's almost comical. Blossom, to break it to you, but that's incense smoke. My eyes rotated in my head. She's a trip. Just wait for it. Wait for
I think we lost hearing again.
Yeah, I think we lost you, Lexi.
my eyes are transfixed on the glowing ball at the center, and the core pulses like a heart.
Lexi,
Yes.
you went out for a little bit.
Ah. See, that's what I get for not looking. I'm sorry. Where did I die at?
Oh boy, where was that? I would say go like 3 sentences up.
Yeah, it was right when she said the incense part.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Not super far. Great. All right. Blossom, I hate to break it to you. That's incense smoke. My eyes rotate into my head. She's a trip. Just wait for it. Wait for what? That. Look. I look to the cloud of smoke and it seems to be pulling back. It curls in on itself like a movie playing in reverse. It moves in a smooth, almost unreal motion until it's a swirling ball between the man's hands. That's fake. He has some kind of device. My eyes are transfixed on the glowing ball. At the center, the core pulses like a heart. There we go. Okay, so is that enough? Because I loved it. I love this book so much. I had so much fun reading it. This book is amazing.
Thank you.
Nikki is awesome, and I'm glad that I got to read it, and I need you to finish up and put out the rest of it, please. The other rest of the series, like now. Okay, like, do I just throw money at you? Is that how this works? I'm not sure, but no, I don't even have a little bit of shame. I am shameless. So first question is characterization. Writing the three brothers, you have a really good grasp of differentiating them. Did you have models for their behavior, or were you just how did you arrive at their characterization?
So I think when it comes to characters, I can kind of right away hear a character, right? Like I can know what that person's going to sound like, how they're going to move. And I think obviously I probably pull from people that I know, but probably the thing that forms in my mind before an actual full story forms, which is why it takes me so long to publish things, are the characters. So I'm like sitting with them and having conversations with them and like building up who they are as people. And that's sort of how they become distinct, become their own selves.
Awesome. Hold on. Okay.
Wait, I lost sound again. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
get there?
I couldn't hear that question. One more time.
The PGAD. How did you arrive there? Are you a doctor? Are you? Is that something that you would encounter in your regular life? It's not something people normally arrive at.
The what?
The spontaneous orgasms.
Oh, that's funny. I have no idea.
Awesome, by the way.
Like, oh, he made her have orgasms. She should just keep having them, and we'll just let that ride itself out until. Really, I was like, well, what's this big? She's had one. She deserves another, and more.
And another. And
just, I just rode with it.
At the grocery store.
I really didn't. I knew it was a medical condition. I didn't know what it was called, and then I said, "This has to be a thing. I'm going to find out what it's called." And my character is a doctor, so she should know what it is. And it went from there.
Yeah, I love that because I'm like, you even put the correct name in it and everyone. That was awesome. Okay, hold on. Question 3. First person writing.
Oh, I lost you again. I can't hear your question. One more time.
POV? Is first person your preferred POV?
Yes. It depends on what I'm writing. So I've noticed that I don't like third person writing because it's generally for third person past tense. Mm-hmm. And I'm not just in creating, I'm not a fan of it. It doesn't really work for me. I like to read it, but when I write it, it feels weird. I tend to write maybe in a less interesting way to me. So I usually will do first person. Also because of the characters, I want each character to have their own feel when you're reading them. And I want it to be immediate. I want it to have that like immediacy of first person. So I usually stick to first. And that wasn't even on purpose. It just kind of happened. And I was like, okay, that works better than, some third person. I try third person sometimes. I've written an entire novel in third person and then had to go back because I was like, I don't like this, and rewrite it in first person. I've done that more than once. I keep trying.
That's the exact opposite of Killing Moon. I wrote like the first 3 chapters in first person and I'm like, yeah, Lord, I can't do it anymore. All right. Do you have a favorite scene in this book or a favorite chapter?
My favorite chapter is chapter, I want to say it's either 8 or 9. I'm pretty sure it's 9 or 8, but it's when Moon appears because I'm kind of low-key in love with Moon right now. Okay. He's not even like a main character in the book, but I love him so much. Like, I'm just like, I love him. He should be here. So when he shows up, I was very happy. I've reread that chapter a couple of times myself just because I like it.
Awesome. And my last question, and I really appreciate you entertaining me with my foolishness. What is your process? Are you a morning writer? Are you a night writer? Are you I get in where I fit in kind of writer? Or how does that work for you?
So I am a all the time writer. Luckily for me, my job is a writer. So people at my job don't know what I'm writing when I'm there. Honestly, like I have my 2 little pads and I'm like, chapter 1, and then, I pull over and write a press release. So I just go back and forth. But I usually will come home from work around like 5 o'clock, unless I'm teaching, and then I come home at like 8. But like the moment I walk in my house, my routine is I wash my face because I hate having makeup on. And then I change my clothes because I hate wearing clothes. I wear pajamas every day of my life. And then I sit down and I start writing, and I will break like to eat or to like do life, to like have a conversation with my partner because he deserves attention too. But normally I'm just like, as I get home, I write, and I'm writing up until the moment I go into bed. And I usually don't sleep till like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So I get I get more hours in writing then is reflected in the number of books that I published. I write a lot.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I will be finishing this. And so I have you on my notifications. So when you put your next one out for this series, I want it desperately. Seriously.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, it's my turn. And I am reading Shai August, The Shifter Bachelor, a rare and unknown shifter romance. There's a prologue, but I'm not going to read it. I'm going to start at chapter 1. Chapter 1, not so instant attraction. Imani paused in the doorway and inhaled deeply. She let the scents of the room's occupants filter through her nose. All I smell is fur and shea butter, Imani whispered to her best friend through the Bluetooth headset tucked in her small ear. She stood in the doorway a moment longer and inhaled deeply again. Yeah, not a feather scale or hide in evidence. That can't be good. It's just too early in the morning. You know some shifters are very late risers, Davida said as she yawned loudly for emphasis. I mean, if I wasn't used to your early morning calls since 5th or 6th grade, I would probably still be in bed. Like you aren't in bed now, Imani chuckled. She could hear the rustle of Davida's sheets through the phone. Davida might take her early morning calls, but her inner lioness made sure they were still in bed and they would go right back to sleep after talking to Imani. She sighed and strolled toward the coffee kiosk, a metal cart with large wheels painted purple. The spokes of the wheel alternated between steely gray and black. The scent of fresh brewed Colombian coffee was her own personal early morning oasis in the large rectangular dining hall of Wiley College. The small kiosk was blessedly free of a line at just moments before 6 a.m. How can I help you, Professor? The petite shifter asked cheerily. The barista was blessed with the most striking blue-black skin Imani had ever seen. Her short, spiky, electric blue mohawk only complemented her skin. I'm not a professor, but I'll take the largest, strongest coffee you have with 7 creams and 7 sugars, Imani answered, smiling. Being this polite before her coffee was killing her, she needed to replace her coffee maker that was lost in the move ASAP. Yes, ma'am, the barista said before turning to prepare Imani's desperately needed coffee and sugar fix. So if you aren't the new political science professor, then who are you? A deep voice asked from behind her. Imani started. Her animal and her human senses were finely tuned. No one ever snuck up on her. No one. She was sure there'd been no one behind her, or even within a 15-foot radius, just a moment before she ordered. Pulse racing, she turned quickly and was pleasantly surprised to see that she was staring into a chest and not a face. A broad, well-defined chest by the way that white button-down shirt was straining at the seams of his massive shoulders. He looked like he was one good bodybuilder pose away from ripping the shirt apart. Her eyes widened as she looked up and up and up before she found the midnight skin and chiseled face of a Maasai warrior staring down at her. Imani's breath caught in her throat as his onyx eyes bored into her own amber ones. Imani Wilson, strength and conditioning coach in the athletic department, she coughed out. She offered her hand. It was swallowed by his large, smooth hand. I'm Ainsley Junad, adjunct professor of political science, and it is an absolute pleasure to meet you, Miss Wilson. The moment their skin touched, she felt an electric spark shoot up her arm to her elbow and radiate through her body, leaving unnerving tingles prickling her skin. All the fine hairs on her body lifted. Imani had once gotten shocked plugging a lamp with a short in the cord into a socket. This electric jolt was at least 50 times stronger than that jolt, and it touched every nerve on her body. She pulled her hand back slowly. Imani didn't want to startle whatever animal that lived in Ainsley because she could feel the eyes of the animal inside him looking out through Ainsley's eyes as well. The intensity of 2 of them staring directly into her eyes knocked the breath out of her for a moment, Her heart started racing at triple time. She felt her animal perk up with an intense curiosity she normally didn't display at meeting strangers or anyone. Imani decided not to ponder her animal's interests, pushing both her physical reaction and her own animal's intense curiosity to the back of her mind for review later, much later. "Nice to meet you, Professor," she answered coolly as she could. Before Imani could say more or decide if now was an appropriate time to run from the dining hall, or better yet, the state, she was interrupted. "Ma'am, 1 large coffee with 7 creams and 7 sugars. That'll be $4. Add it to my bill, Keisha," Ansel said, just as Imani turned and held out a $5 bill to Keisha. Keisha made no move to take the $5 bill from Imani's hand. She just stood there with the coffee cup nestled between her hands, waiting. Wisely, Keisha kept looking between both like a crowd at a tennis match watching players volley. She stood patiently waiting for Imani or Ansel's directions. Imani turned her head back to Ansel's direction slightly. He had stepped closer to her while she was turning around. She had been expecting a quick grab of her coffee off the metal counter, then scooting sideways as fast as her legs could carry her from the piercing eyes of Ansel and his animal. "Thanks, but no thanks, Professor." She turned back to face him. Something told her that being around this man was not safe. Even though she sensed no physical danger from him, she needed fresh air because he was still crowding the air in her lungs. Against her normal instincts of fight first, she needed to flee and get away quickly. Okay. That was great. I have questions. I have so many questions.
Many questions.
I have 5 questions, and I'm gonna be really honest because I'm an honest person.
Okay.
And my questions weren't written either, so don't feel bad. Okay. You all probably looking to the side. That was me writing my questions. I still hopefully.
We just have to mess with Phoenix because she always waits. She is like the ultimate last minute Lucy on everything.
On this though, you're not by yourself this time. You have company late to the game corner. Okay. Sorry, I have a numbered question, and then but right before that, I have notes from a class that I was teaching, and I started to write the notes I started to read that question, but you're gonna have to answer for it because you don't know.
Okay. I'll wing it. I will wing it. I am a font of useless knowledge, so if you read me something from your class, I'll try and answer it. You don't know what's in this head. I mean, it's big for a reason.
I was being presumptuous. I'm sorry. Okay, so what do you think you bring that's different to the world of shifters? Because shifters have been done a lot, and so what's different about your shifters?
Well, first, I write shifters of the spectrum. So I don't just write, the traditional lion, tiger, bear. I write Imani's an elephant. Not only is she an elephant, she's a war elephant. Ansel is an impandula, which is an African mythical creature. So I try and write the spectrum of animal. I don't just wait on, hey, I need a bear. No, I make up the character if I have to. So that's the main thing I bring that makes my shifters different from other people's shifters. So, yeah.
I didn't read the prologue. So
okay, don't read the prologue.
Don't read it?
Uh-uh.
Life?
I'm actually thinking about taking the prologue out because everybody's like, I don't understand the prologue. And I'm like, okay, then maybe I should take that out and save it for later.
You're ruining my question, though.
Okay, go ahead.
I said you didn't read the prologue. Can you provide some context for the story? Can you, if people don't understand the prologue, can you break it down for us real quick?
The prologue is basically the villain and her plot. That's how she starts her plot. The prologue is all villain.
Okay.
And my villain is, unlike most characters, she's a woman. Mm-hmm. She's an old woman, and she's a Black woman. And she's not doing it for greed. She's not doing it for money. She's doing it for justice.
Oh, I thought you were
or what she perceives as justice.
Bitch. I was gonna be like, okay.
But it takes a few books for people to know that that's what she's doing it for, because I string it out. I like breadcrumb it like a frat dude at a sorority house. Like,
Speaking of breadcrumbs, I just want to put out there that if you're reading any of Shai's work, make sure you have snacks.
You're
like me.
That. Always.
Like every time I'm reading her book, I'm like, I need some chocolate cake, muffins, a slice of ham, some gumbo, like some ribs, like everything. So yeah.
And you know, I have this series is based on it's a loosely tied in based on The Bachelor, the actual TV show, where it's The Bachelor and then The Bachelorette, and they pick mates, blah blah blah. And I was thinking my next series when I first started writing would be like The Great Shifter Bake Off or something like that. And now I see you looking at me. And I feel the pressure to go up my food descriptions already from now. And I haven't even gotten there yet.
Okay, so my next question is, I have not finished the book. I will finish this book though. But from the cover, it looks kind of dark. Is that the tone of the book?
The book, okay, so I'm unintentionally funny. I write things and people find it hilarious or they don't. So like you'll read some stuff like and you'll think it's funny and the other people will be like, I don't understand that at all. So you're gonna read it and you're gonna hit parts and you're gonna be like, that was funny as shit. And I think I posted that on my Instagram the other day. I was like, this is for half the people, you know, this is how I come up in your life. Shai ain't shit or Shai is too funny, because I was about to burn some sage. So I rewrote the lyrics from Thrift Shop. I'm gonna pop some tags to I'm gonna burn some sage. And I went through like a whole stanza, and so you know, I'm unintentionally funny.
Well, I'm gonna laugh at one bodybuilder move away from.
I want something so people will be like, "Oh my God, he's about to Hulk Hogan out that shirt."
First time I read it when I was practicing, I laughed when we were practicing reading here. I laughed just then. I'm sorry. I knew it was gonna happen. I was trying to suppress it. It didn't work.
It's okay, girl. I love when people laugh at my stuff because people don't laugh at my jokes in real life.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it just doesn't translate well. Maybe that's your platform. That's your platform.
Yeah, joke telling is not my stilo. That's not my ministry.
How does this book fit into your other stories for people who aren't familiar with your work?
This book is the basic intro into my world because my world has layers. So, you know, a few chapters in, you meet the stewards, which are the magical law enforcement agents. A few more chapters in, you get more of the, you know, Atlanta herd. A few more chapters in, you get more of the rare and the unknown, which is a shifter group. They're a disparate group of, you know, 1.7 million shifters who aren't big enough to be, you know, a force on their own, but together they banded and they make up the largest shifter group on the planet.
I like this. I love that. Do you have any strange writing habits?
Yes, I need Doritos.
You don't need examples. Good, go.
I need spicy nacho Doritos. It's a thing. I need Doritos. I need to burn a candle or some sage. And I need music. When I try and write when it's quiet, my stuff comes out a little boring. So I need like a driving beat in the back of my head going.
Is that as strange as it gets?
Yeah.
I feel like I want to give an example because I want really strange. So when I first started writing, I'm like a really weird person. Like I don't write if like my back's not against like a hard surface. Like I can't write if there's like a door open behind me or if I'm like in an open space. And also very weirdly, this is so weird, I'm going to confess. When I first started writing, I had to like be in a small space, like a tent basically. Like I couldn't be in the open. It was complete paranoia, you know, but like, do you have anything really weird like that?
No, because I'll sit in the bed and write. I'll sit at the desk. I'll go to the coffee shop, the library. I have literally sat in my car waiting to pick up somebody and pulled my laptop off and shoved it on my breast and the steering wheel and been like, I don't need a space. I really just need the music, and you know, if the story's coming to me quickly, I don't need the Doritos. But if I am stalled out, Doritos kickstarts my brain. That's how I know they're addictive.
Nice. Okay. I might have to get some Doritos. I don't do that no more. I just want to point that out. But
you don't do Doritos?
I don't write in small spaces no more.
Oh, okay, good. Because I was worried about you. was like, do I need to get one of your play tents from Amazon and have it shipped to your house with the little kids do the TP? Yay, TP.
This was great. I am like super excited. And I want to do your audiobooks. Look, I'm gonna look this out.
Okay, just so you know, there's gonna be 15 in this series. So like
Look, I got my Gatorade.
that's a lot of commitment, girl. I don't know if you want to make that. You have to deal with me for a long time, and I kind of overwhelm people after a while. That's why I only got like 4 friends.
Is it us 4 on the screen right here? I'm just kidding. What?
I'm gonna call shameless lies on that, by the way, just to let you know.
What?
Lies.
I don't
That you
know.
only have 4 friends. Lies.
Well, thank you so much for answering my questions and allowing me to read.
They were great questions, even if they were last minute. See, I'm sorry, I can't help it. I grew up with like a bunch of uncles, and that all they do is shoot the dozen. So like, it is like inherent in me to like when I can. All right, so it's my turn to read. Yay! And I am going to read Ferocious, The Secret of Ceres, Book 1 by Stella Williams. And I'm reading the prologue, because let me tell you, okay, never mind. I'll tell you after. Full moon. Daphne climbed from her bedroom window onto the landing of the fire escape. She paused as it creaked under her weight. She'd started sneaking out 3 months ago and knew it would hold her weight, just not how long. The apartment building where she and her family lived survived on sheer will alone. The elevators hardly ever worked, and the stairwell reeked of urine and weed smoke. No one cared what anyone around them did. Everyone stuck to themselves regardless of the situation. The perfect environment outside of Ceres for a family of Aura to go unnoticed. The easiest place to hide from the outside world while still living and navigating within it. Her family could afford better. Fear and proximity to Ceres kept them stuck in this hellhole. Daphne dreamed of living without fear. Lots of Aura teens who grew up outside of the great sanctuary of Ceres felt the way she did. They didn't want to choose between the freedom of the outside world and the freedom to use their gifts. They wanted both. On nights like this, they defied the rules by practice their energy knowledge without limitation. The resistance, they called themselves, organized and fought for the freedom to be themselves, at least from what the brochure said. Daphne found the resistance, mostly blogged about social injustices around the world, and partied at the local hotspot, Club Obelisk. The full moon beckoned, filling her with excited energy. Daphne rushed down the metal ladder, using her aura energy to sense the way in the pitch black of the alleyway. The building stood tall enough to block out any of the moon's magnificent lighting from reaching its secrets. The only other source of light in the alley had long been broken, and no one cared to fix it. "Took you long enough," James said, startling Daphne. She smiled and launched herself in his waiting arms. Daphne and James flirted for a month now, and she hoped that maybe this evening would make things official. Benji fell asleep. I had to wait him out," Daphne whispered. He took her mouth in a passionate kiss. They made out in the dark until a sharp whistle cut through the silent night air. Time to go. The others wouldn't wait for them much longer. James took Daphne's hand and led her out of the alley to a waiting van. Tonight was a special night. They wouldn't be joining the resistance at Club Obelisk. It was their first official date, a house party, being thrown somewhere on the outskirts of town. While Daphne preferred that they travel to the party, just the two of them, she couldn't be any more excited. "Hurry up, they are waiting," the driver said. He looked back at them through the rearview mirror. Daphne never met these boys before. Human, but not part of the resistance. She knew all 10 of the human members there, James included. It made Daphne nervous. She studied James' energy. Finding him to be calm and excited, she snuggled closer to him. "Let's go." Then, "Wouldn't want to keep them waiting," James said. His voice sounded deeper than usual, like he wanted to project a manly facade in front of his friends. "Who's all going to be there?" "Will there be anyone I know?" Daphne asked. James smiled at her and shook his head. "No one you know. I want you to get to know a different set of friends." I'm sure once you meet them, you'll understand, James said. Daphne ignored the warning bells going off in her head. James acted like a different person, but that's what humans did. They changed personalities based on the situation. Daphne could understand that, living her life as an aura in the outside world. Still, Daphne couldn't shake the gnawing feeling in her stomach. She shifted in her seat. Her senses picked up on a delicate swirl of dark energy. They drove farther and farther from the city. Her palms began to sweat, and her stomach started to twist in a knot. The air felt heavy with ill intent. Pull over, Daphne snapped, as they reached the last few blocks of civilization. James' friends chuckled, and he wrapped a tight arm around her waist. Chill out, babe. We've got big plans for you tonight. The implication of his words sent Daphne into a panic. She focused on the vehicle's engine, feeling out its energy until she found the right component to manipulate. The car sputtered and began to smoke before the engine died. As soon as it slowed, van before James grabbed her by the ankles. I thought I told you to neutralize her before she got in the van, the driver shouted. She struggled with all her might. I did. I slipped her the potion while we kissed, James snapped. Daphne screamed and kicked for dear life as they pulled her back into the van. She prayed for someone, anyone to hear, and come to her rescue. She'd missed her chance. Guess I'll do it the old-fashioned way. Boss is going to be pissed, the other boy from the van said. A big black object came flying at Daphne's face. The force of someone's fist impacting her jaw sent her flying into the wall of the van. She heard the sickening sound of flesh connecting with flesh before her head hit the metal behind her. Everything went black. Okay, so Stella, you need to talk, because I told you I had this on my list for a while to read, right? I know I told you that. And I was like, one day when I don't have like 97 books due, I'm gonna read this shit, right? And because you read all of my stuff, and I'm like, I gotta read some of Stella stuff. Now, I don't want to spoil it for people, but this scene, this prologue, is like Law and Order, where you see the victim, and then you know they're about to get it, and then it snaps to Briscoe and Curtis, or Briscoe and the partner du jour of the day, about to roll out to where the body is. So that's how it feels, right? So, okay. So, because at first I was like, oh, this is teenage, but it's not. It's really not. So, now that's my comparison, because, you know, I compare everything to TV and pop culture. What contemporary post-apocalyptic kind of tone show were you going for in this shift from the victim to the actual investigation?
To be 100% honest, I'm a mood writer, and I was in a very dark place in my life.
Okay.
And
you just felt the need to kill somebody.
It just like, I wanted to push to be a bit darker and a bit more gritty with my writing. And I wanted you to want to find out about the character. I wanted you to feel for the victim, to kind of drive the rest of the plot. So that's why I chose someone so young. I know it throws people off. I get asked all the time, like, oh, I thought this was a YA book. I'm like, no, not at all.
Yeah, because I told you earlier, my internet auntie rose up and like, girl, where the fuck are you going? Stay your ass in the house. Don't leave out the house. Bad shit happens after dark. Because my grandma was one of those people, you know, ain't nothing open after midnight but legs and bad shit, you know? So like, so I feel like, oh my God. And now the whole thing, I'm like, oh my God, what did they do to her? And you know it's a plot, because it's like, oh, the boss is going to be mad. So you know it's layered. So do you want to talk about how you have so many layers between her death, her kidnapping, and the investigation?
So to be completely honest, when I was writing this, Ferocious is the first book in my Secret of Sarah series, and I really wanted it to be a standalone. I didn't want it to be connected to my Mora's Men series, but I ended up putting it in the same town. So if you have read my Morris Men series, then you would get the reference of Club Obelisk as being the hangout of the vampires. So, and you would also know that about the fact that there's like a serial killer running around. So for those who are familiar with my past books, they would think, oh, are they, working for Mara, who is my villain in the first series? But then it's also like was a quick way to kind of introduce the fact that there were these magic users that were kind of like left behind, and and how that affected the youth and how they were trying to like figure out their place in the world when they were really caught between three different worlds. But yeah, there are so many layers in that section, and to be honest, I just wrote it and then I saw all the symbolism afterwards. Some of it I didn't even recognize until you read it to me just now, and I was like, oh, that's where that came from. But yeah, it's one of those things where it was just a little bit of everything. It was a little bit of giving you the history of the world I was introducing. It was giving you a character that you wanted to figure out what happened to her, even though you don't really see her for most of the book. You just get little snippets. And it was a throwback to my first fans, to give them something that they could be like, oh, I know the secret, and then they really don't.
Oh, it's an Easter egg. Okay, gotcha. All right, I have to go read Morris Men first before I finish this one. Okay, I'll get this done. Okay, second is, what aspect of this world is closest to our world?
A lot of it, I feel like I said, I came up with the idea when like Black Girl Magic first like became a thing. I really wanted to write a literal Black Girl Magic story. And at the time I was like Black Lives Matter movement and all of that had just started up. And so my original villain was going to be a secret society of people who were after magic users who were the children of prophecy, and they were called cops for short. And my sister said that was too on the nose. And then when I finally got to like writing it, that's when all the stories came up about, a lot of Black teen girls going missing and nobody looking for them. And that really struck me, and that ended up becoming the plot about this. So it's a lot of parallels, like the aura. Not only are they a lot of them Black, but they kind of parallel the same struggles as African Americans in the US in dealing with the social injustice, and the ones that are outside of the sanctuary of Ceres, which is kind of a play on classism, is that, they're not just dealing with the fact that they're different because they have these magical powers, but they're also being persecuted as being darker skinned humans, and so that's why, so there's just so many parallels to things that were happening. And once again, all of this is stuff that I realized after I wrote the book.
It was in your subconscious. It was working its way out, like that murder. So.
But yeah, no, like honestly, the last couple of years have been very, very crazy for everyone, and Ferocious was really my expression of that in a kind of lighthearted, fun way.
Now, my next question goes back to my comparison to Law and Order. If you could compare any television police procedural, which would you choose to this book?
That's kind of hard. I actually watch a lot of them, and I'm running through them in my head, and I'm just like, to be 100% honest, Donovan Mars was kind of like Malik Yoba in New York Undercover.
Okay.
That
Tell
was
us
my
more.
Malik Yoba was my first TV crush. I was like 5 years old and I saw him on TV and I was like, I'm gonna marry that man. So like in my head, every time I come up with like a super hot African American character, in my head it's Malik Yoba. And just kind of like is like smooth, kind of like but he's also like by the book sort of thing, whereas his partner is more like crazy and out there. And then Farah is like, I don't know. I didn't base her off of this, but after watching Queen Sono, I was like, Queen Sono is basically Farah without, the mommy issues.
Okay. Queen Sono came out like March 28th, and by March 29th, I was like, if you're not watching Queen Sono, I don't know what the fuck you're doing with your life. And because I was like, it's everything I need. Oh, okay. So yeah. And that was another question. I was like, Farrah, who inspired her? But now that you've given me this Queen Sono reference, I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to ask that question. And I know your true love is vampires, but I think this world needs more shifters. Are you going to introduce more shifters in later books?
So I had originally planned on doing that, but I have the opposite problem of Alexis, where I say, oh, I'm going to write like 10 books, and then I write like 2. So, so yeah, because Mora's Men was supposed to be like 6 books, and it ended up being a trilogy. And then,
Ma'am.
So
okay. I know how to drop into your DMs every day.
Well, okay, so A Night Divine, which you read because it was temporarily and shifted into Love Mardi Gras, is part of my shifter group. So I'm doing my shifters as short stories, because
that is so disrespectful to us shifter lovers. I just need you to know that. Okay.
No, because like I am so lazy when it comes to shifters. I'm just like, he's a wolf, he's a bear. I thought I was being really cool, and one that's coming out really soon, that I put in the detail that bears are not packs, they're actually a sleuth. I was really excited about that, and that should tell you why all of my shifters are short stories.
Okay, because you don't want to do the research. I got it. All right. That is all my questions now. Thank you so much.
I love it. All right, now it's my turn. I get to read the prologue from Queens of Beasts, The Life, Love, and Death of Adara Mashal. I called it Marshall last time. It's Mashal. I remember that from when I reviewed it last year. So this is the prologue. Adara. I was dying. That was a fact. There was no way that anyone could survive what was happening to me. Flames licked my heels while ice ran through my veins. Air came in heavy gasps as blood dripped from lips. My fingers gripped the damp ground desperately, soil caking beneath my fingernails. I was dying. Fuck. It wasn't like I didn't think I would die young. In fact, at 25 years old, I was 4 years past my self-determined expiration date. You didn't live the way I did without making many powerful enemies. Eventually, everything you did, every blade you drew, every life you took, and I had taken a lot of them, came back to haunt you. Everyone, no matter how powerful, wealthy, or deadly, always answered to karma. I was no different. My only regret was dying in this one-horse backwater town. I had trekked through the deserts of Afghanistan, hiked the mountains of Japan, and ran through the jungles of Borneo. I had smiled in the faces of devils that made grown men shit themselves. I had lived more in my 25 years than most did in a lifetime, and now I was dying. Pain ricocheted through my body, causing it to pitch forward. Screams of agony left my blood-stained lips as I felt the last bit of life, the last bit of humanity begin to leave my body. I felt my heart breaking along with my body. I couldn't blame anyone but myself for my death. I came to this sleepy-ass town to bury my grandmother, and shit went crazy. I should have left once I read her letter. I should have left once I realized things in this town were out of control. I should have left before I met him. My blood was on my own hands. Let go, he gritted through clenched teeth, eyes blazing. I smiled despite the pain. At least I had this moment. At least I would be able to die in his arms. The man I loved. The man I let kill me.
Oh my gosh, you did so good.
Just wait till you hear my questions. You're going to be like, you read really, really well. That reading.
Let me become serious, Phoenix, and put on my glasses. Okay.
Okay, so I don't know. As someone who has been to both Afghanistan and Japan, kudos for getting details. And my first question is, what made you start the story at the main character's death?
Because I thought I was very clever at that time in my life. Okay. I said, you know what? Everybody knows me for erotica. Oh, she's a smutty princess. Okay. So let me go ahead and write this paranormal book. And I'm going to tell you in the title and in the prologue that this lady's going to die. And I guarantee you are going to read it all the way through to figure out what the hell happened to this lady. Why she dying?
I exactly did that. I really did. Okay. If you could rewrite it, what, if anything, would you change?
In this particular book, I would change nothing. It's the second book where I did go back and make some changes. But this book right here, I would say I would change nothing because it's the intro to this world. So, I know a lot of people who read it were like, well, not a lot of people, a few who said, oh, there were just so many reveals. Well, yeah, hello. Okay, we're at the beginning. All right. We're going to get to the bigger picture soon. But in this book here, I'm just introducing you to the world, to the Mashal family, what's happening in Hellfire Valley. Really, what is happening in Hellfire Valley? I don't know what's going on there anymore. I don't know.
All right. Well, that segues directly into another question of mine. Is Hellfire Valley based on a real life place?
It is. It's based on my hometown. Except it was never that exciting. But I grew up in a town outside of Chicago, in a very small town. And when I moved here, because I'm originally from Minnesota, but when I moved here in my junior high, like I think it was like 6th or 7th grade, we moved here. And at that time, it was still a very small, like rural town. Eventually, it grew and grew and grew. So now it's like, I think it's the second biggest city in Illinois. But at the time, it was not. There were still farms and forests. In fact, my house was between a farm and a forest. And so there was nothing to do. And that's where I drew the inspiration from for Queens of Beast, we're like, all this exciting stuff happens in this small rural town.
Awesome. All right, my fourth question is, was it a conscious choice to use curse words throughout the story, or was it just how the characters came to be?
I write my characters like how I would talk. And I curse like a sailor. I would love to one day, hopefully, write a book that my grandma could read, where there's no curse words and no sex scenes. Unfortunately, that's not this series, but she loves me anyways.
Well, you should just show it to her anyway. I was scared with my grandmother, and she read my first book from the Mooresman series and was like, it just needs a little bit more spice, honey.
My grandma has all my books. She puts them in the church bulletin, and I keep telling her, hello, I write erotica. Stop putting that in there, okay? She lives in the deep South. This is not good. They're going to kick my grandma off the missionary board.
All right. And then the last question is, what was the most interesting thing you researched while writing this book?
How to chop off a man's hand and how to cut out a man's tongue. Those were the things, and everybody's head is like this. Those were the things. I wanted to make sure.
Tell me all about it.
I wanted to make sure I got it right. Like, could you pull out someone's tongue? And I also Googled how to take out someone's eyeball, because I wanted to make sure I did it right. Y'all look so confused. Everybody looks so confused on top.
I got the tongue thing. I got that, because all you got to do is get a hold of it, pull it out, and ding, ding, ding. So, I mean, that's simple. But the eyeball one, that's confounding.
Well, you got to cut it out right.
Monitored. I want you to know that they're monitoring your computer now. Girl, let me tell you, I grew up on a farm. I have helped butcher animals. I'm good. They're gonna be like, where's she from? And then they're gonna look at my birth certificate and be like, oh, she good. My hometown has less than 500 people. So yeah.
I wanted to make sure I got it right. So when she took out that blade, it was like, it went right. Sometimes you gotta cut out people's eyes and chop off their hands in the first chapter. It's okay.
All right. I'm gonna throw a curveball. I'm gonna ask everybody a question.
Oh.
Wow.
I'm gonna start with you, Lexi.
Okay.
All right. What is the longest scene you've ever written?
Come back to me.
The longest scene I've ever written? I'm not really good to judge that because I always type slower than I think. And so all the scenes feel like they take forever, even if they're short. And so my concept of time's a little messed up with regards to that. For some reason, I'm really good about writing 12 to 15 page sex scenes that, feel like, 6 or 7 pages. So I don't really have a frame of reference for that. I'm sorry.
All right. Next, I'm going to go with Nikki. And I don't believe I've read anything from you yet.
No.
So I'm going to go with a simple question. Paper and pencil or laptop, no word?
Paper and pencil.
Yeah. just to clarify, I meant, would you prefer writing with pencil, writing your entire novel on paper and pencil, or on a laptop without a word processor, like trying to do it in like text pad or notepad?
I don't write in Word anyway, but if I had like no processor, like no word processor, I still write with paper and pencil first. It flows better that way. I have like every manuscript I have has tons of paper written things first. So just staple them all together at the end and then
transfer. All right. I'm going to jump to you, Shai. What is one animal you don't think you'll ever write about?
Animal? Oh.
Or insects, anything living aside from a plant that you wouldn't write about as far as your rare and unknowns?
Too late, she wrote them all already.
I don't do rats because a rat bit me. But like if you'd ask me what kind of, I'd probably say vampires, but like I don't like vampires. Not, I don't write vampires very well. Just like you, lazy, I'd be like, oh, the blood was hot, and I'd be like, ew, because I don't do body fluids. So like, oh, gross, hot blood. Oh, like my skin is actually crawling just talking about it. But probably rats. There will be no rat shifters in the rear end yet, though.
All right.
Why couldn't I get the word processing question?
All right, Jessica.
Yes.
When is they all gonna die?
I get this question so often. I am starting to get messages in my DMs and emails, and someone wrote a review like, when is this dude gonna die? And I don't know. I'm right there alone with y'all like, damn, he back again. I don't know, but I love writing him, so I don't really want him to die anytime soon.
Okay. Honestly, that wasn't my real question. That was just being silly.
Oh, okay.
My real question is, of your titular characters, I'm gonna throw a big word because I feel like it. Which one do you like the least?
Which character do I like the least?
Yes, of your main characters, like the ones you named books after.
You're gonna probably hate me, but Natara? Because, and they make fun of her, you've read the series, they make fun of her all throughout the series because she's like that stereotypical, like always in trouble, someone come save me. And then there are a group of female shifters and Jen and Powerful Being that's like, we gotta save this heifer again. Like, they talk about her so bad. Like, she's very powerful, she's strong, like, but she is always needing some help. And I typically don't like to write that type of character. So when she emerged, it was hard. It was difficult. Like, I mean, she cool, I like her, but if there is one, it's her. I'm like, girl, get it together. You're too powerful for all this nonsense. But yeah.
All right. And Miss Phoenix Williams.
Yes.
I'm going to just bypass all of your paranormal stuff and go straight into the erotica.
Oh, boy.
What is the most complicated sex scene you've ever written?
Shit. Oh, let's think back to all the stuff. Okay. I don't want to give it, I don't want to spoil if you have not read my Fooling Around series, okay? But there's a scene in book 3, and it deals with paint. She made him chase her around the house to catch her, right? And so through the windows, all the neighbors see is a big black man chasing a naked black woman. And then they have paint like all over because he's a painter. And so they end up falling on a canvas, and I had to write it in a way where even when it got up, it was still a painting of them having sex. Does that make sense? It reads better than I just told you. Okay, whatever. Everybody looks so shocked.
No, I'm really intrigued. I have to go get this book now. I'm like all for it. I'm like, I want to try that. I have a nice canvas right now.
It was super romantic.
I will call it Corona sex.
It was really romantic when he finally framed it and gave it to her. Erotica Phoenix is different than Paranormal Phoenix. Okay, they're two different people.
I don't know.
Hold on.
I'm a Gemini.
I am recording. Oh, bye. I'll see you later.
Bye.
He wants the Xbox games, girl. I've been buying this quarantine making me go broke. Okay, I'm tired of it now. All right, I'm gonna throw that damn Xbox out the window.
What I did for my husband was we use Steam, which is an online gaming platform, and you can buy all the Xbox games and everything because they have like emulators and stuff, and it's way cheaper. You can get the games for like $20 or less, and sometimes you can get like bundles from like Humble Bundle for like, they just say, pay how much you think these games are worth. So for one Christmas, I told my family, oh, my husband only wants Steam game cards, gift cards. And I bought him the Steam console. They don't make it anymore though. And he ended up with like $500 in gift cards, and I haven't had to buy him a game since.
I'm gonna go get that because this kid is expensive. Okay.
I have a quick fire question for Stella since she hit us up with one.
Yeah.
Return the favor. You mentioned when you were talking to Phoenix about her books that you have been to Japan and I think Afghanistan. Do you use your travel like in your stories? Do you use that when you're structuring and doing your world building?
Not at all. No, I'm a lazy writer. I will change an entire plot so that I don't have to research a single detail. Like that's and I know that's really bad. It's something I'm trying to work on.
I'm a second that. I do the same thing.
So like, yeah, I've been to a lot of different like places. Like I lived in Hungary for 4 months. I was in the army and I was stationed in Afghanistan for 7 months. I lived in Japan for like 4 years. But I don't really use any of that. I think the most knowledge I use from my travels is just like when I have to write traveling scenes. I know so much about like airports and buses and trains, that, when it comes to like transportation, I can maybe overdo it a little bit. But other than that, no, I don't talk about any of the places that I've been. I try to stick in the realm of fantasy as much as possible so that nobody can be like, that's false.
I'm gonna have to listen to your answer on the playback because my son came in. But okay, thank you.
That's how you know it's time to wrap it up. The children are circling. Okay, they're coming to get us.
I'm surprised.
It's gonna be.
Y'all didn't hear mine screaming during my reading. They were like, ah!
I didn't hear it.
My glass almost empty too, so that means we
I've been sipping because I realized that I poured more than one shot's worth in this.
No.
All right, well, ladies, let's go through one more time. Tell everybody who you are, which book of yours was read tonight, and where they can get the book. And we'll start with who's first? Jessica.
Oh, I'm Jessica Cage, and I forgot Phoenix Red.
Siren's Call.
The glass almost empty. Phoenix Red from my book, Siren's Call, which has a new cover, so I can't hold the book up. You can find it on Amazon.com. It is free right now, and also in Kindle Unlimited. So.
All right, Lexi.
Hello. Jessica read A Killing Moon, which is available on Amazon.com. It's also available in Kindle Unlimited and will be going on sale here soon as we ramp up towards the release of the companion book, A Hunter's Moon.
All right, next is Stella.
Wait, I'm supposed to be saying what book of mine. I told you I put more than one shot on accident. The book of mine that was read is Ferocious, for my Secret of Sarah series. It's read by the lovely Shai August. And it is available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. And if you're interested in reading my shifters, those are available on not only Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Apple Books, Google Play, but they're also on Overdrive. If you don't want to pay for them, just make your library do it. So that's where I'm at.
All right, Nikki.
Third Street Conjure Boys, Jinx was the novel of mine that was read. She didn't write it, I wrote it. It was read. And I'm not drinking, I'm drinking Gatorade, so it's my own fault. I'm just Lexi read for me, and I really appreciate it. But so this is the first in the series. It's an ancient deity series, so I'm like pulling from a lot of like African deities and Native American deities, and we're gonna keep it rolling. This is the first one, and that's on.
I'm excited, so excited.
That's on Kindle Unlimited, and you can buy it on Amazon.
All right, and Shai August.
Okay, so I'm Shai August, and everywhere I'm Shai August. I'm like Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and do not blame me if you go to Pinterest and you get stuck on my boards. I'm sorry in advance, but that's not my fault. That's a disclaimer right there. If you want to know where all the food comes from in my books, Pinterest. My book was The Shifter Bachelor, the first in I know some people call it the Bachelor series. I call it the Rare and the Unknown. And it's gonna be book 8 just came out, Bachelor in Paradise. Book 9 I'm working on now. Bachelor in the North, it'll come out sometime in August.
All right, and I guess I'm last. I'm Phoenix. I write a bunch of stuff. Feel free to go pick it up. But tonight, Stella, she read my book, Queens of Bees, The Life, Love, and the Death of Azara Mashal. You see how I almost messed up my own title, right? Let me stop drinking. All right, and then book 5 in that series comes out April 30th. The pre-order link just came out today. And I'm going to go actually write that book this week. It's still up here. It's not on paper. But I work best, and I know this was not my question, but I'm going to answer it anyways. I work best under pressure. I got to see that
under
pressure. I want to thank all ladies for joining us tonight. It was our first time doing it, and
this was so much fun.
It will be over soon. Even if it's done soon, we can still get together and read books.
And drink.
We should all put our newsletter links in the group so people can follow us to see where the rest of our books are.
I'm the worst.
Nice.
Because I'm lazy. I write enough newsletters. I hate them. I'm sorry.
All right, and I'm going to.
Woo!
Like,
Yeah,
I
I love Nikki.
marketer.
I love Nikki. She's like, I ain't doing no extra work. Believe me, I don't want to do any marketing either.
I love my newsletter. So sign up for our newsletters. All of our links will be in the bottom of the video.